thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Leading Change. My name is Emma, and I've got Todd with me today, and we're going to be talking about human first AI. But before I get to all the questions that I've got for you, can you do an introduction for everyone?
Sure. My name is Todd McLees. I'm founder at humanskills.ai, and we're all about helping people build AI agility. So the journey from AI anxiety to AI agility and building the human skills along the way that are necessary for work in the AI economy.
So the first question that I want to ask is really going to set the stage for the rest of the conversation. And that's really talking about the why behind this approach of human first AI, and why is it so important with the evolution of this technology that we take this approach?
Yeah, that's a really great question, Emma. So when you look at just the very recent headlines of the past week, everything is about what's known as agentic AI. And that has to do with AI, various AIs operating autonomously and doing complex tasks. And the question becomes, what's left for humans to do? And so while there's lots of emphasis around human-centered AI in the development labs, the frontier labs, and everybody that's building this stuff, we think it's also really necessary for individuals, teams, and organizations to be thinking around human first as well. There's a common term called human in the loop, which puts us right sort of in the center of process. But we also want to be intentional about what the role is of human beings as it relates to getting work done in partnership with AI. And so there's all sorts of opportunities to build process in mindful ways that keep people in mind and put them first and foremost rather than machines. So for me, it's the balance between, instead of just emphasizing speed and productivity like we always have with every invention ever, there's an opportunity to find the balance between certainly increased productivity, but also boosting well-being in the workplace.
So one of the things that we talked a little bit about when we were prepping for this conversation is kind of the mindset behind how we use the tool of AI. And I think you mentioned kind of the difference between the printing press and social media. And I'd love to get a little bit more from you for everybody else to be a part of the conversation on that analogy and how that plays into that idea that you just mentioned of thinking through AI as only a tool for productivity and speed, and how else do we need to kind of think through our relationship with the tool?
So yeah, a human first approach is such an important mindset shift. If you look at Gutenberg's press of nearly 600 years ago now, it certainly made the production of books faster. So there's always a fast element with every paradigm shifting technology. But what it enabled is the democratization of knowledge. And so for 4 centuries, it contributed to human flourishing. And that's really how we measure just how profound a paradigm shifting technology is. We always have. It's not just productivity, but in the long run, when we look back, we think about the way that it makes people's lives better. It increases healthy lifespan. It contributes to well-being. And there's a tremendous opportunity to do that in the workplace. Here's the thing. In the 375 years, 400 years that followed the printing press, little or no true paradigm shifting technologies were created. But since the steam engine in the first industrial revolution in the late 18th century, and for the 20 workforce generations that have existed since then, the primary use case for all of these technologies has been speed. It's been productivity. And even if the technology weren't created with that as first priority, that's how it was implemented. And so adoption and implementation is such an important piece of this. And we have to be thinking about the emerging technologies to include artificial intelligence, but also things like quantum computing and nanotechnology and bioengineering. These technologies are different. They give us an opportunity certainly to go faster and increase productivity, maybe more than ever before, certainly in our lifetimes, but in the last century since electricity. But the other opportunity is to enable flourishing. And so what I mean by flourishing is helping people experience more positive emotions, to engage deeply in their work, to build healthy relationships, to increase their sense of meaning, not lose it to offloading too much to AI. And so if we can find that balance, both in terms of how we're rolling this technology out within companies and how we're using it ourselves by building healthy habits, then we can be intentional about those things. And we don't have to look any further than social media. Facebook is 20 years old this year. And if you look at even the last 10 or 15 years since, let's say, iPhone 4 and Instagram in 2010, ever since then, social media, it's done as much harm as it has good. And we have to ask ourselves, given that the social media companies, the e-commerce companies, the web browsing companies, the search companies like Google, these are the exact same companies who are bringing us AI. So if we look back at just the last 10 or 15 years and we realize that we let those technologies just happen to us, we didn't intentionally build good habits around it. We may have forbidden our children from using certain tools. We may have tried to outlaw them in schools or in company usage on company time. But again, back to productivity. What we have an opportunity to do right out of the gate with artificial intelligence is teach people, as it becomes such a big part of our lives, how to use these tools in ways that actually build well-being, that they're healthy habits, sustainable practices. That's the difference that we can't let it happen to us. We know what the social media companies and now the AI companies, where their incentives lie. It's about getting people engaged in using the tools, creating value, all of those issues. But it rarely comes down to the well-being of people. And so our opportunity is to exercise our own agency within our companies and our own individual lives and our families and help people build those habits.
And I love this idea that there can be a balance and that we can use this game-changing technology and reach new heights without necessarily fearing the worst case scenarios or like the doomsday, Terminator stuff that people are
Right.
constantly hearing about. There's space for both, but we have to be intentional about the way that we build it. So one of the things also that I'd love for you to share with everybody is a little bit about the work that you and your team are doing at Human Skills AI to work with companies to really identify, companies and schools and individuals, to identify what are the human skills that are really important for us to effectively work with AI and find this balance.
Yeah. So over the last 8 years or so, we've been, just as a side project, we've been researching and continually updating by looking at dozens of other frameworks that exist and working with more than 100 people have contributed to this over the past 8 years. But 6 or 7 months ago, we decided that it's time now. We should form a company and actually do something with this. And as we did that, we started understanding that we have these 32 skills and 16 mindsets that are all in some way helpful for individuals to either have those skills, be proficient in those skills, or be aware of those skills, be able to articulate what those skills are and how they might apply it. But it's really not about 32 skills and 16 mindsets. It's about the 6 that matter most to you, that matter most to the company. So what we have found over the past several months in working with dozens of companies is that if you show leaders in that company the framework, the human skills framework, it only takes 5 or 10 minutes for them to say, well, these are the 6 or 8 skills and mindsets that matter most in our culture. And so then we build learning content in the form of 30-day challenges to help people upskill as it relates to the high cognitive and socio-emotional skills. Now, we do that primarily by working with community colleges across the country. We've got more than 60 relationships in various states, very heavy in Texas and New York, Ohio, Illinois, and Wisconsin. And the opportunity is to leverage them, and they're essentially put them at the center of a regional ecosystem around both AI and human skills. There's this fundamental shift going on with regard to the work that we're doing. And we're going to see much more of this in 2025 with agents coming into the workplace, performing some of these easy tasks. And so what's going to be left for people to do is going to be work that is both relational, working with other people and machines, intelligent machines, And then secondly, tasks that require domain expertise of some kind, and maybe even across multiple domains. And so the skills that we've developed and mindsets in this framework, which again is consistently evolving, we're on version 8.1, and it seems like every 30 days or so, people are giving input, and then we make good decisions as to whether or not they should be included, or replace another, reprioritize, etc. We want that to be a living framework so that we can continue to build it and help people apply those skills in a just-in-time way. So if I can go from, not really knowing truly what critical thinking is or how I build the skill, well, we believe that you can go from 0 to 1 or 1.5 or 2 in about a 30-day period of time. And what I think really makes us different is not only the explicit way in which we're saying this is what critical thinking is, these are the micro skills that are associated with it, but it's applied learning where you're doing exercises, you're practicing the skill throughout the 30 days, and you're actually leveraging generative AI to build those skills. That's what our company's all about. Is we believe that you can use AI to become more proficient in human skills. As machines get better at being machines, we have to get better at being human, and we think we can leverage AI to do that.
I love that idea of getting better at being human through the use of this technology. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. And again, going back to this idea that there's space, we don't have to fear it, but we have to be intentional about the way that we get there. And so I love the work that you guys are doing. And for anybody that's not already following Todd on LinkedIn, make sure that you go follow him and follow along with, one, all the stuff that he's sharing about AI, but also the work that Human Skills AI is doing. But thank you so much for joining me for the conversation, Todd, and for everybody for watching, and have a wonderful day, everyone.
Thanks, Emma.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Leading Change. If you like what you saw, be sure to come back on a weekly basis and subscribe for more expert interviews focused on digital transformation, change management, and emerging technologies.